Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're taking a journey through time to explore the fascinating story of California. How did one state become home to two powerful, yet seemingly opposite, cultural forces? We're talking about the gritty, trailblazing spirit of the gold rush and the laid-back, sun-soaked vibes of surf culture. It's a tale of how pickaxes and surfboards shaped the California we know and love today. So grab your gear, whether it's a shovel or a longboard, as we dig into the epic story of the Golden State. It all begins in 1848. Before this year, California was a sparsely populated, remote territory. But then, at a sawmill owned by John Sutter, a carpenter named James Marshall spotted something shimmering in the American River. It was gold. News travels fast, but back then, it was a slow burn. It wasn't until President James K. Polk confirmed the discovery in his address to Congress that the world truly took notice. And when it did, the floodgates opened. This wasn't just a spark, it was an explosion. The California Gold Rush had begun. From 1849 onwards, hundreds of thousands of people, known as the 49ers, descended upon California. They came from every corner of the United States and from across the globe, from Latin America, Europe, Australia, and China. They were driven by a single, powerful dream to strike it rich. This was more than just a migration. It was a complete and radical transformation of the region. A sleepy outpost was about to become the epicenter of a global phenomenon. San Francisco, a tiny village of just a few hundred people, mushroomed into a bustling metropolis of over 30,000 in just a couple of years. This incredible influx of people created an urgent need for infrastructure. Suddenly, there was a demand for roads to connect the mining camps to the cities, for banks to handle the newfound wealth, and for farms to feed the rapidly growing population. The gold rush didn't just bring people. It forced California to build a society from the ground up practically overnight. This frantic pace of development laid the very foundation of the modern state. This mass migration also created one of the most diverse societies on the planet. People from countless backgrounds were thrown together in the mining camps and burgeoning cities. It was a true melting pot, a chaotic mix of languages, cultures, and traditions. This diversity wasn't always harmonious, of course, as it often led to conflict and tension. But it also planted the seeds of a uniquely cosmopolitan identity that would come to define California. The state became a place where different worlds collided, and out of that collision, something entirely new was forged. This spirit of constant reinvention, born in the crucible of the gold rush, is a thread that runs through California's entire history. Now, let's fast forward about a century. The gold fever has subsided, and California has settled into its role as a major economic and agricultural powerhouse. But a new wave is about to break, this time on its sun-drenched shores. While the gold rush was about digging into the earth for treasure, this new movement was about gliding on top of the water. We're talking, of course, about the rise of surf culture. Surfing had existed in Hawaii for centuries, a spiritual and cultural practice of the native people. It made its way to California in the early 20th century, introduced by Hawaiian surfing legends like Duke Kahanamoku. For decades, it remained a niche, almost eccentric hobby for a small group of ocean lovers. They were the pioneers, crafting their own heavy wooden boards and creating a small, tight-knit community along the coast. But after World War II, everything changed. New materials developed during the war, like fiberglass and polyurethane foam, made surfboards lighter, more maneuverable, and easier to produce. Suddenly, surfing was more accessible than ever before. This technological leap coincided with a new era of post-war prosperity and the emergence of a powerful new demographic. For the first time, young people had their own disposable income, their own cars, and a desire for their own culture, separate from that of their parents. The beaches of Southern California became their playground. Surfing offered a sense of freedom, a connection to nature, and an escape from the rigid conformity of the 1950s. It wasn't just a sport, it was a lifestyle. It came with its own language, its own fashion, and its own rebellious, carefree attitude. The surfer became a new kind of folk, hero-tanned, athletic, and living for the next perfect wave, completely at odds with the button-down, corporate man in the gray flannel suit. This burgeoning youth culture didn't stay on the beach for long. Hollywood was quick to capitalize on this exciting new scene. Movies like Gidget in 1959 brought surfing to a mainstream audience, romanticizing the beach lifestyle and turning it into a national craze. Suddenly, kids in landlocked states were dreaming of the California coast. This was followed by a wave of surf music, with bands like the Beach Boys creating a soundtrack for this sun-soaked dream. Their songs weren't just about surfing. They were about cars, girls, and the endless summer of youth. Through music and film, surf culture was broadcast across the country and around the world, solidifying California's image as a place of eternal youth and boundless optimism. What's truly fascinating is how these two seemingly different worlds, the rugged individualism of the gold rush and the communal, free-spirited nature of surf culture, actually two sides of the same coin. Both were driven by a quest for a certain kind of freedom. The 49ers sought economic freedom and the chance to reinvent themselves. The surfers sought a different kind of freedom from societal expectations. a spiritual freedom found in the rhythm of the ocean. Both movements attracted pioneers who were willing to take risks and forge their own path. The prospector, hacking away at rock, and the surfer, paddling out into a heavy swell, both share a certain audacity, a belief in their own ability to conquer the elements and chase a dream. Moreover, the infrastructure built during the gold rush was the very thing that enabled surf culture to flourish. The roads that once carried miners and supplies now carried surfers in their woody wagons up and down the coast, searching for the best breaks. The economic prosperity that began with gold created the middle-class leisure time that allowed a subculture based on a sport to even exist. Without the economic engine kick-started by the gold rush, the idyllic surf lifestyle may never have become so widespread. As surf culture evolved, it began to cross-pollinate with other movements. When the waves were flat, surfers in Santa Monica and Venice started putting wheels on small planks of wood, taking the fluid motions of surfing to the pavement. This was the birth of skateboarding. Sidewalk surfing, as it was first called, carried the same anti-establishment creative ethos. Skaters turned urban landscapes, empty swimming pools, drainage ditches, and stair-set scenes to their own personal playgrounds. Just as surfers had claimed the coastline. And then came the tech boom. Just a stone's throw from the gold rush country, a new generation of pioneers started their own kind of rush in what would become known as Silicon Valley. These weren't prospectors with pickaxes, but engineers and entrepreneurs with circuit boards and big ideas. They worked out of their garages, fueled by a similar ambition to change the world and, yes, to strike it rich. This digital gold rush mirrored the original in its intensity and its global impact. It drew a new wave of ambitious migrants to California, reinforcing the state's identity as a hub of innovation. The informal, collaborative, and risk-taking culture of Silicon Valley shares a surprising amount of DNA with the creative, problem-solving mindset of surf and skate culture. It's no coincidence that many early tech pioneers were themselves surfers and rebels who brought a countercultural mindset to the world of business. So, from the mud and grit of the Sierra Nevada foothills to the pristine waves of Malibu, California's identity has been forged in these two epic movements. The gold rush established California as a land of opportunity, a place for dreamers and doers, and it created a diverse, dynamic society. Then, surf culture repackaged that dream, giving it a sun-kissed, youthful glow. It defined California for a new generation as a place of freedom, creativity, and a connection to the natural world. Together, they created a powerful duality, a state that is both a relentless engine of economic and technological innovation and a global beacon of lifestyle. Today, this legacy of ingenuity and cultural fusion continues to shape not just California, but the world. The spirit of the 49er lives on in every startup founder in Silicon Valley. The spirit of the surfer lives on in our global obsession with wellness, action sports, and personal freedom. California remains a place where you can find your fortune, whether it's in gold, in code, or in a perfect, glassy wave at sunrise. It's a testament to the state's incredible capacity for reinvention, a place that is constantly being shaped by the next big rush, the next new wave. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through California's incredible history. It's a story that's still being written, and it's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful cultural forces can come from the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Let me know in the comments what part of California's history fascinates you the most. Until next time, stay curious.